The spaceship Horizon glided toward the massive orbital station that hung like a jewel above the blue-green world of Riul Prime. Commander Jin stood at the viewport, his heart beating fast despite his calm face. After 20 years in Earth's diplomatic corps, this was by far his most important mission. 2 minutes until docking, Commander, said Lieutenant Park from her station. Jin nodded. Is everyone ready? The 5-person team had trained for 6 months for this moment. Humanity's first official diplomatic meeting with the Riul Empire. The aliens had made contact with Earth just 1 year ago, and the reports described them as tall, blue-skinned, and extremely strong. They ruled over 200 worlds and had technology far beyond Earth's. Remember, Jin told his team, we represent all of humanity today. The Riul respect strength and honor above all else. The ship locked into place. With a gentle thud, Jin straightened his dark blue uniform with gold trim, designed to impress the color-sensitive Riul, and led his team toward the airlock. When the doors opened, Jin had to stop himself from gasping. The welcoming party consisted of 8-foot-tall, blue-skinned warriors, their bodies covered in shimmering armor that seemed to move like liquid. Their faces were humanoid, but with sharp features and large pupilless eyes that shone like polished amber. At their center stood a figure that could only be Empress Gia of the Riul. While not as tall as her guards, she carried herself with such power that Jin felt like he was standing before a storm-given form. Her skin was a deeper blue, almost purple in the station's light, and her armor was etched with symbols Jin couldn't read. Welcome to Riul space, humans, the Empress said in perfect English. The translation devices had been exchanged months ago. We are curious about your kind. Jin bowed exactly 15 degrees, not too submissive, but respectful. Empress Gia, I am Commander Jin of Earth's Diplomatic Corps. We bring greetings and friendship from our world to yours. The Empress's face showed little emotion, but Jin thought he saw something like amusement in her eyes. Friendship is earned, Commander. The galaxy is not a kind place for small young species. One of the Riul guards made a sound that might have been a laugh. Jin kept his expression neutral even as he felt his team tense behind him. We may be young, but we have much to offer, Jin said. Perhaps, the Empress replied. We shall see. You will join us on the surface for the formal greeting ceremony. Jin and his team followed the Riul delegation to a large shuttle. During the journey down to the planet's surface, Jin watched the alien landscape grow larger through the viewport. Vast cities of crystal and metal, surrounded by purple forests and turquoise oceans. The shuttle landed in a massive open plaza, surrounded by tall spires that seemed to reach for the sky. Thousands of Riul citizens had gathered to witness the arrival of the strange new aliens. Jin could feel their stares as his team walked behind the Empress toward a raised platform in the center of the plaza. Your world is beautiful, Jin said to the Empress as they walked. It is powerful, she corrected. Beauty without strength does not survive long. On the platform, several ornate chairs had been arranged. Beside the largest one, clearly the Empress's throne, stood something that made Jin's blood run cold. It was an animal that looked like a cross between a wolf and a bear, but larger than either. Its fur was silver with blue streaks, and its 6 legs ended in claws that could likely tear through metal. A handler held it with a glowing chain, but the beast seemed barely contained, its yellow eyes fixed on the humans with predatory interest. You admire my Quran, the Empress said, noticing Jin's gaze. They are the apex predators of our world. For 10,000 years, only the royal family has tamed them for the hunt. This one is young, barely 5 cycles, but already a killer, the Quran growled, a sound so deep Jin could feel it in his chest. The handler yanked on the chain and the beast settled, but its eyes never left the humans. It is impressive, Jin said carefully. The Empress took her seat and Jin was directed to a smaller chair to her right, a position of honor, he had been told. His team stood behind him. People of Riul, the Empress began, her voice carrying across the plaza without any visible amplification. Today we welcome visitors from a small world called Earth. They are a young species new to the stars, but they have shown enough promise that we have granted them this audience. Jin listened as the Empress described Earth in terms that were Not quite insulting, but certainly made clear the power difference between their worlds. It was expected. The Ryul were testing how humans would react to their show of dominance. Suddenly, a commotion broke out near the base of the platform. The Quran's handler had been distracted by the ceremony, and the beast had taken advantage. With a powerful lunge, it snapped the glowing chain and leaped toward the platform. Time seemed to slow for Jin. He saw the massive predator sailing through the air, heading directly toward Lieutenant Park and the other team members. He saw the shock on the Ryul guards' faces. They were too far away to intercept. He saw the Empress rise from her throne, her face showing genuine alarm for the first time. Jin moved without thinking. Years of special forces training before joining. The diplomatic corps took over. He stepped into the Quran's path and planted his feet firmly. As the beast crashed into him, Jin used its momentum to grab it around its massive chest. With a grunt of effort that used every bit of his enhanced strength, a result of Earth's higher gravity and the physical training all diplomats received, Jin lifted the 300-pound predator off the ground. The Quran thrashed in surprise, but Jin held firm, using a restraint technique designed for much smaller Earth predators but applied with perfect form. He turned and carefully lowered the beast to the floor, keeping it pinned without harming it. The plaza fell completely silent. Jin looked up to find the Empress staring at him with an expression of total disbelief. The Ryul guard stood frozen, their weapons half-drawn. "I apologize for touching the royal beast," Jin said calmly, still restraining the now quieter Quran. "I meant no disrespect to your traditions." For several long seconds, no one moved. Then, the Empress raised a hand and several handlers rushed forward to secure the Quran with new restraints. Jin stepped back, suddenly aware that he had probably just violated a dozen alien protocols. But instead of outrage, the Empress's face showed something new, interest. "Commander," she said, her voice quieter than before, "no Ryul warrior can lift a mature Quran. Even with our strength, it is impossible." Jin bowed slightly. "Humans are full of surprises, Your Majesty." The Empress studied him carefully. "Yes," she said finally. "I believe you are." She turned to her guards. "The ceremony is concluded. Commander Jin will join me for a private audience, immediately." As Jin followed the Empress from the platform, he could feel the eyes of every Ryul in the plaza on him. The first contact mission had definitely not gone according to plan. But as he caught the slight smile on the Empress's face, Jin wondered if perhaps it had gone better than anyone could have expected. Commander Jin followed Empress Jia through tall crystal doors into a chamber that seemed to stretch endlessly upward. Unlike the grand public spaces they had passed through, this room felt more personal. Strange plants with blue and purple leaves grew from pots along the walls. A large window showed the purple forests of Ryul Prime stretching to the horizon. The Empress dismissed her guards with a wave of her hand. When the doors closed, she turned to Jin. "Sit," she said, pointing to a chair that seemed too small for her kind. Jin realized it must have been made specially for humans. Jin sat, keeping his back straight and his face calm. The Empress remained standing, looking down at him. "You lifted a Quran," she said, her voice showing disbelief even now. 300 pounds of muscle and rage. Even our strongest warriors cannot do this." Jin nodded. "Earth has higher gravity than Ryul Prime. It makes us stronger than we look." "That is not the full answer," the Empress said, narrowing her eyes. "There is more to you humans than your size suggests." She walked to a table and pressed a button. A three-dimensional image appeared in the air between them, a map of the galaxy with hundreds of stars highlighted in blue. "The Ryul Empire," she explained. 217 worlds across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. We have conquered or allied with species from every environment imaginable, and yet, none are quite like humans. Jin watched the map rotate. Slowly. Earth was not even visible on it. Too far away, too insignificant. "We did not contact your world by chance, Commander," the Empress continued. "We have been watching Earth for 50 of your years. Your people fight constantly among yourselves, yet accomplish remarkable things despite this division. You adapt to challenges that would destroy other young species. The door opened, and a servant entered with 2 drinks. The servant placed them on a small table and quickly left. "This is safe for your biology," the Empress said, handing Jin a cup with a red liquid. "Our scientists confirmed this." Jin took a careful sip. It tasted like sweet berries with a hint of something like cinnamon. The Empress drank from her own cup, her eyes never leaving him. "I will speak plainly, Commander," she said. "The real Empire faces a threat. We are powerful, but this enemy is different." The galactic map changed, showing red dots spreading across one edge. "The Vorax Collective," the Empress explained. "A hive mind species. They do not conquer worlds. They consume them. Every living thing is processed into more Vorax. They cannot be reasoned with or intimidated." Jin leaned forward. "And they are approaching your empire." "Yes. They have destroyed 12 civilizations in the outer systems already. Our weapons are advanced, but the Vorax adapt quickly. Each battle teaches them how to defeat us next time." Jin understood now. "And you think humans have something that might help you fight them?" The Empress's face showed surprise for just a moment. "You are perceptive for a species so young," she said. "Yes, humans have qualities we find interesting. Your unpredictability, your ability to continue fighting even when defeat seems certain, and apparently, your physical capabilities, which I witnessed today." She touched the table again, and the map disappeared. In its place appeared images of Earth, human armies throughout history, Olympic athletes performing feats of strength and endurance, rescue workers pulling survivors from disaster areas. "Your species is physically weaker than many we have encountered," the Empress said. "And yet you accomplish things that should be impossible through what you call heart or will. We do not fully understand it." Jin smiled slightly. "It is hard to explain, even for us. I want you to show us," the Empress said. "Not just in words, but in actions. I am assigning General Day to work with you. He commands my elite forces." As if on cue, the doors opened again. A tall Ryul male entered, his armor simpler than the Empress's but clearly marking him as someone important. His skin was a lighter blue and a scar ran from his left eye down to his jaw. "General Day," the Empress said. "This is Commander Jin of Earth. You will train together and learn from each other." The general looked at Jin with obvious doubt. "This small one? The one who handled the Quran?" "The same," the Empress replied. "Do not underestimate him or his kind." General Day bowed to the Empress but did not look convinced. Jin stood and extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting. After a moment of confusion, the general took Jin's hand in his much larger one. "I look forward to learning about Ryul fighting techniques," Jin said. "And I am ordered to learn about human ones," the general replied. "Though I cannot imagine what you could teach warriors who have conquered hundreds of worlds." The Empress made a sound that might have been a laugh. "That attitude, General Day, is exactly why I arranged this exchange. Perhaps humans will teach us something we do not even know we need to learn." Over the next several weeks, Commander Jin spent his days training with General Day and his elite warriors. The Earth diplomatic team continued their official meetings with Ryul representatives, but Jin's special assignment became his main focus. The training facilities were impressive, massive rooms that could simulate any environment from desert to ocean floor with gravity and atmosphere controls that could recreate conditions from any world in the Empire. At first, the Ryul warriors treated Jin with barely hidden contempt. They were taller, stronger, and had been fighting across the stars while humans were still figuring out how to leave their own solar system. But that attitude began to change after the 3rd day. Again, General Day said after Jin had been knocked down for the 20th time, "Your technique is improving." Jin got up, wiping blood from his lip. The training weapons were blunted, but could still cause pain. He had bruises all over his body, but he refused to ask for a break. "On Earth we have a saying," Jin said, taking his fighting stance again. "Fall down 7 times, get up 8. General Day tilted his head. "This makes no sense. If you fall 7 times and get up 7 times, you are standing. Jin smiled through his pain. The point is to always get up one more time than you fall. To never stay down. A strange philosophy, the general replied. But I begin to see its value. By the end of the second week, some of the Ryul warriors were studying Jin's movements with genuine interest. Humans lacked the natural strength and speed of the Ryul, but Jin showed them techniques designed to use an opponent's force against them, to find leverage where none seemed to exist. In return, Jin learned about Ryul technology and fighting styles. Their weapons were centuries beyond Earth's, but Jin realized their tactics were surprisingly straightforward. They relied heavily on their natural advantages rather than innovation. Your species fights strangely, General Day told Jin one day as they rested after a particularly intense session. When you are about to lose, you become more dangerous, not less. Most species become more predictable in desperation. Jin drank from his water bottle. Humans have a long history of being underdogs. We had to learn to be creative to survive. The general seemed to consider this. The Empress believes this quality might be useful against the Voraks. They analyze patterns and adapt, but they struggle with unpredictability. Tell me more about them, Jin said. If humans are going to help fight them, I need to understand what we're facing. General Day was silent for a moment, then nodded. Tomorrow, the Empress has authorized me to show you our intelligence on the Voraks. And then, Commander, you will understand why we came all the way to your small world to find allies. As Jin returned to his quarters that night, he felt a strange mix of pride and concern. Humanity had hoped to find friends among the stars. Instead, they had found a powerful empire that saw them as useful tools in a war against an enemy they had never heard of until now. But as he looked out his window at the alien landscape of Real Prime, Jin realized this might be humanity's greatest opportunity. If they could prove their worth to the Ryul Empire, Earth would gain protection and knowledge beyond anything they could achieve on their own in centuries. The question was, what price would they have to pay for it? 3 months had passed since Commander Jin first set foot on Real Prime. The morning sun cast purple shadows through his window as he finished his daily exercise routine. His body had adapted to the lighter gravity, making him even stronger than before. General Day had commented yesterday that Jin now moved like a real warrior, though still in a human body. Jin's communication device chimed. The Empress was calling an emergency meeting. 20 minutes later, Jin entered the war room. General Day was already there, along with 5 other high-ranking Ryul commanders. The Empress stood at the center table, her face more serious than Jin had ever seen it. A Vorak scout ship has been detected at the edge of our system, she announced without greeting. This is the first confirmed sighting in our territory. Jin felt a chill run down his spine. He had seen the intelligence reports on the Voraks, the destroyed worlds they left behind, the billions of lives consumed. We must capture it, the Empress continued. We need to understand their latest adaptations before the main fleet arrives. General Dai stepped forward. My team is ready, Your Majesty. Good, the Empress said. Commander Jin will join you. The other Ryul commanders murmured in surprise. Jin kept his face neutral, but he was equally shocked. This was a military operation, not a diplomatic one. Your Majesty, one of the older commanders said, with respect, the human has no experience with space combat. This mission is too important to risk on an experiment. The Empress fixed the commander with a cold stare. Commander Jin has trained with our best warriors for 3 months. He brings perspectives we lack, and the Voraks have never encountered humans before. They will not have adaptive strategies prepared. She turned to Jin. Unless you object, Commander. Jin straightened his back. I am honored to serve, Your Majesty. 6 hours later, Jin found himself aboard a Ryul stealth ship, approaching a small moon at the edge of the system. The Vorak scout had landed there, presumably to gather resources or set up monitoring equipment. General Day briefed the 12-member strike team. Our mission is to capture the ship's central processing unit intact. This will give us valuable data on Vorax, tactics and communications. We go in fast, overcome any resistance, extract the CPU, and leave. Questions? A female real warrior raised her hand. What about the human? What is his role? Commander Jin will accompany Empress Jia and me in the primary assault team, General Day said. Jin turned in surprise. The Empress is coming? General Day nodded. It is our way. Leaders fight alongside their warriors. Jin had not seen the Empress since entering the room. Now she emerged from a side chamber wearing combat armor similar to the others but with subtle royal markings. She carried a weapon that looked like a cross between a spear and an energy rifle. Does this surprise you, Commander? She asked, seeing his expression. On Earth, we usually keep our leaders away from direct combat. Jin explained. The Empress made a dismissive gesture. How can one lead warriors without sharing their risks? How can one understand the enemy without facing them directly? Jin couldn't argue with her logic, though he worried about the diplomatic disaster if anything happened to the Empress during the mission. The ship landed silently on the dark side of the moon, 3 kilometers from the Vorax scout. The team moved out quickly, using the rocky terrain for cover. Jin kept pace with the Ryal warriors, his specialized combat suit enhancing his already improved strength. When they crested the final ridge, they saw the Vorax ship. It looked like no vessel Jin had ever seen, more like a massive insect made of dark metal, with spines and protrusions that seemed to serve no obvious purpose. No visible guards, General Day whispered. Unusual. A trap? Jin suggested. Possibly, the Empress replied. But Vorax rarely use simple ambushes. They prefer overwhelming force. The team split into 3 groups to approach from different angles. Jin stayed with the Empress and General Day. They moved silently across the barren surface, using handheld scanners to detect any hidden threats. They were 50 meters from the ship when the ground erupted in front of them. 5 creatures burst from hidden tunnels, each one nearly 3 meters tall with multiple limbs ending in what looked like both weapons and tools. Their bodies were a sickly white color with no visible eyes, but covered in sensory organs that twitched and turned. Vorax drones, General Day hissed, raising his weapon. The battle was instant and chaotic. The real warriors fired energy weapons that sliced through Vorax limbs, but the creatures seemed not to feel pain. More drones emerged from the ship, surrounding the team. Jin fired his borrowed real weapon, adjusting quickly to its power. He struck 2 drones, dropping them, but more kept coming. He heard shouts over the communication system. The other teams were under attack as well. Fall back to position 2, General Day ordered. They began to retreat, still firing. Jin saw a drone lunge toward the Empress from her blind side. Without thinking, he leapt forward, tackling the creature. They rolled across the ground, the drone's limbs scratching at Jin's combat suit. He drove his combat knife into what he hoped was a vital area, and the creature stopped moving. When Jin looked up, he saw the Empress staring at him with an unreadable expression. But there was no time to think about it. More drones were coming. The mission is compromised, General Day said. All teams, return to the ship. They ran back the way they had come, firing behind them. But as they reached the ridge, a massive explosion lit up the night. Jin watched in horror as their ship erupted in flames. They found our transport, the Empress said, her voice tight. Standard Vorax tactic. Trap the hunting party by eliminating their escape. General Day was already calculating alternatives. Second team, status? A garbled response came through the communicator. Under heavy attack, I can't reach. Extraction point. Third team, no response. The Empress made a quick decision. We need to reach the emergency beacon point on the far side of the ridge. From there, the orbital station can send another ship. They changed direction, moving away from both the Vorax ship and their destroyed transport. Jin checked his scanner. Multiple signals following us, they're tracking our movement patterns. We need to be unpredictable, the Empress said. Jin pointed to a deep ravine to their left. That way. It's the opposite of where we should logically go. General Day looked doubtful, but the Empress nodded. Do as he suggests. They scrambled down into the ravine. the loose rocks making their descent difficult but also masking their trail. They had gone perhaps a kilometer when the Empress suddenly stumbled, her leg buckling beneath her. Jin caught her before she fell. "You're injured." The Empress tried to stand on her own but couldn't put weight on her right leg. "Drone venom, it will pass, but I need time." General Day looked back the way they had come, then at the long path ahead. "We're still 7 kilometers from the beacon point. The Vorax will track us by your blood trail." Jin made a quick decision. "I'll carry her." Both Ryul stared at him. "Impossible," General Day said. "Even with your strength, you cannot carry the Empress that distance." "Watch me," Jin replied, and in a smooth motion he lifted the Empress onto his back. She was heavy, nearly twice his weight, but the lighter gravity and his enhanced strength made it possible. "We need to keep moving." "Which way?" General Day hesitated only a moment, then pointed toward a narrow pass between 2 rocky outcroppings. "Through there. It will slow the drones." As they moved through the alien landscape, Jin focused only on putting one foot in front of the other. The Empress said nothing, but he could feel her watching him. General Day took point, checking for threats ahead. "Why did you risk yourself for me?" the Empress finally asked quietly. "Your mission was to observe, not to protect." Jin kept walking as he answered. "Where I come from, we don't leave people behind, especially not allies." "Even when the ally is more powerful and supposedly stronger, strength comes in many forms," Jin replied. "Today I'm strong enough to carry you. Tomorrow you might save me in a way I can't imagine." The Empress was silent for a long moment. "You are not what I expected, Commander Jin. Your species continues to surprise me." Behind them, they heard the screeching calls of Vorax drones echoing across the barren landscape. The hunters had become the hunted, and their only hope lay in a human carrying an alien Empress across an alien world. The rescue ship arrived just as the first light of dawn broke over the moon's horizon. Commander Jin, General Day, and Empress Jia were the only survivors of the 12-member strike team. The journey back to Real Prime was silent, each of them lost in their own thoughts about the comrades they had lost. But their grim mood changed when they reached the royal palace. As they walked through the grand entrance, Real warriors lined the halls, placing their fists over their hearts in a gesture of respect. They were not looking at the Empress or General Day, but at Jin. "What is happening?" Jin whispered to General Day. "Word has spread about what you did," the general replied, "carrying the Empress 7 kilometers across hostile terrain, fighting off Vorax drones while doing so. No Ryul could have done this." Jin felt uncomfortable with the attention. "I just did what needed to be done." "And that," said the Empress, walking beside them now with only a slight limp, "is precisely what makes humans interesting." 2 days later, Jin was summoned to the Empress's war room. A large holographic display showed the Ryul home system, with red markers representing Vorax movements. "Their main fleet will arrive within 30 days, the Empress announced to the assembled Real commanders. "Our scouts report at least 200 ships." A older commander with battle scars across his face spoke up. "We have 170 warships in the home defense fleet. The odds are not in our favor." "Then we must change the odds," the Bikao Empress replied. She turned to Jin. "Commander, you have observed our military capabilities and tactics. You have also faced the Vorax directly. What would humans do in this situation?" All eyes turned to Jin. He had not expected to be asked for strategic advice. He studied the holographic display for a moment. "The Vorax adapt to patterns," he began slowly. "They analyze how you fight and develop countermeasures. This is why your standard tactics are becoming less effective against them." "We are aware of this problem," one of the commanders said impatiently. Jin nodded. "On Earth, we have a saying, if you cannot win with strength, win with cleverness." Throughout human history, smaller forces have defeated larger ones by using unexpected tactics. He stepped closer to the display and pointed to several locations in the system. "Instead of meeting them in a standard space battle formation, We could use your smaller, faster ships as bait to lure their fleet into separate groups. Lead them into the asteroid belt here, where your knowledge of the terrain would give you an advantage." The commanders looked skeptical, but Jin continued. "The Voraks are a hive mind. They excel at coordinated attacks but struggle with chaos and unpredictability. We need to create situations they have never encountered before." He described several human battle strategies from Earth's history: guerrilla tactics, feigned retreats, and night raids, adapted for space warfare. As he spoke, he noticed General Day nodding thoughtfully. "These suggestions have merit," General Day said when Jin finished. "They are unlike our traditional approaches, but that is exactly why they might work against the Voraks." The older commander scoffed. "Are we to abandon centuries of proven Ryol military doctrine based on the words of a species that has barely left its own planet?" "Yes," the Empress said firmly, "because our proven doctrine is failing against this enemy." She turned to Jin. "I am creating a joint task force led by both General Day and Commander Jin. You will develop a complete battle plan using these human concepts of unpredictability." The announcement sent shockwaves through the room. Jin saw anger, disbelief, and curiosity on the faces of the real commanders. One of them stepped forward. "Your Majesty, with all respect, no non-real has ever commanded our warriors in battle. This is unprecedented." "These are unprecedented times," the Empress replied, "and Commander Jin has earned this position through his actions." Another commander spoke up. "The warriors will not follow a human who has not proven himself in our ways. He may have carried you to safety, Empress, but that does not make him a real leader." The room fell silent. Jin felt the tension growing. The commander's words had struck a nerve. Despite his actions on the moon, he was still an outsider to many of the Ryul. The Empress seemed to consider this. "You raise a valid concern, Commander Tay. What would you suggest?" Commander Tay looked directly at Jin. "If he wishes to lead our warriors, let him face the Quran trial, as all our leaders have done for 10,000 years." Murmurs filled the room. Jin remembered the massive wolf-like beast from his first day on Ryol Prime, the same type of creature he had managed to lift and restrain during the welcoming ceremony. "The Quran trial is reserved for Ryol royalty and high commanders," General Day objected. "No alien has ever attempted it." "Then let him be the first," Commander Tay replied. "If he passes, no warrior would question his right to lead." All eyes turned to the Empress. She studied Jin carefully before speaking. "The choice must be his. Commander Jin, do you understand what is being asked of you?" Jin hesitated. "Not entirely, Your Majesty." "The Quran trial is our most sacred tradition," she explained. "A warrior must enter the sacred grounds and face an adult Quran alone, without weapons. The goal is not to kill the beast, but to earn its respect and submission. Most who attempt it die. Those who succeed are forever changed." Jin felt a chill run down his spine. He had barely managed to restrain a Quran for a few moments during the ceremony. Facing one deliberately without weapons seemed like suicide. "If I refuse?" he asked. "Then you may continue as an advisor, but you cannot co-lead the task force," the Empress said. There would be no dishonor in this choice. Jin looked around the room. He saw doubt in most of the Ryul faces. But in General Day's expression, he saw something else, a glimmer of hope. "I volunteer for the Quran trial," Jin said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. The room erupted in surprised voices. The Empress raised her hand for silence. "It will be arranged for tomorrow at dawn," she said. "Commander Jin, General Day will explain the traditions you must observe tonight." Later, in a small preparation chamber, General Day showed Jin ancient scrolls depicting the Quran trial. The images showed Ryul warriors facing the massive beasts in a circular arena surrounded by stone pillars. "No Ryul has attempted the trial in nearly 50 cycles," General Day said. "The last was the Empress herself." "How did she succeed?" Jin asked. "Through strength and will," the general replied. "She broke the Quran's charge and forced it to submit through physical dominance. But you cannot win this way, Jin. You are strong for a human, but not strong enough to overpower an adult Quran. Jin studied the scrolls. Then I need to find another way. General Day placed a hand on Jin's shoulder. There is no shame in reconsidering. No one would think less of you. Jin shook his head. On Earth, we have another saying. Sometimes you have to leap without knowing where you'll land. If humans and Ryul are going to fight side by side against the Voraks, this is a leap I need to take. The next morning, Jin stood at the entrance to the sacred grounds. He wore only light clothing, no armor, no weapons, as tradition demanded. The rising sun cast long shadows across the circular arena. In the center stood a large stone platform, surrounded by 12 ancient pillars covered in Ryul writing. The Empress and her commanders watched from a viewing area above. Jin could feel their eyes on him as he walked to the center of the arena. A deep rumbling sound came from a dark tunnel. On the far side, Jin took a deep breath and centered himself, remembering everything he had learned about the Quran from the scrolls and his own brief encounter with one. The creature that emerged was far larger than the one from the welcoming ceremony. Its silver blue fur was marked with scars, and its yellow eyes fixed on Jin immediately. It growled, a sound so deep Jin could feel it in his chest. The Quran crouched, preparing to charge. Jin did not run or look away. Instead, he slowly knelt on one knee and placed his palm on the ground. The Quran paused, confused by this unexpected behavior. In the viewing area, the Ryul commanders murmured in surprise. What is he doing? Commander Tay asked. He shows submission before the trial even begins. No, the Empress said quietly. Watch. Jin remained perfectly still, his eyes locked with the Quran's. He was not showing submission. He was showing respect. The scrolls had described the Quran not just as beasts, but as intelligent creatures, with ancient ties to the Ryul people. The Quran circled Jin slowly, growling and sniffing the air. Jin turned his head to keep eye contact but did not rise or make any threatening movements. Minutes passed in tense silence. Then slowly, Jin extended his hand, palm up, toward the beast. The Quran approached cautiously, its massive jaws capable of removing Jin's arm in a single bite. In the viewing area, even the Empress held her breath. The Quran sniffed Jin's outstretched hand. Its yellow eyes never left his face. The massive beast could end his life with one bite, but Jin remained perfectly still. The entire arena was silent. Slowly, the Quran pressed its nose against Jin's palm. A warm sensation spread up Jin's arm and into his chest. He gasped as images flooded his mind, forests under purple skies, running with a pack across open plains, the thrill of the hunt. The Quran was sharing its memories with him. In the viewing area, Empress Jia gripped the railing. Impossible, she whispered. What is happening? General Day asked. A mind bond, the Empress said. There are legends of it in our ancient texts, but no one has achieved it with a Quran in thousands of years. The Quran stepped closer to Jin, towering over his kneeling form. Jin slowly rose to his feet, his hand still touching the beast's face. More images filled his mind. The Quran's life from birth, its training by Ryul handlers, the loneliness of being separated from its pack. Jin instinctively sent back his own memories. Earth's blue skies and green forests, his childhood home, his journey to the stars. The Quran made a sound unlike its earlier growls, almost a purr. I will not harm you, Jin said softly. And I ask for your help, not your submission. The Quran lowered its massive head. Then, to the amazement of everyone, watching, it lay down at Jin's feet. Jin placed his hand on the creature's shoulder, and together they turned to face the Empress and her commanders. Commander Tay's mouth hung open in shock. This is not how the trial is meant to be completed. The Quran should submit through fear and respect for strength, not whatever this is. The scrolls say only that the warrior must gain the Quran's allegiance, General Day countered. They do not specify how. The Empress raised her hand for silence. The trial is complete. Commander Jin has succeeded in a way no Ryul has ever, Accomplished. She stood and addressed the other commanders. The Joint Task Force will proceed as planned, under the leadership of General Day and Commander Jin. 2 weeks later, the massive war room of the Royal Palace was filled with officers from both Ryul and human vessels. 5 more human ships had arrived from Earth, bringing specialists in various fields. The holographic display in the center of the room showed the approaching Vorac's fleet, now just days away. Jin stood before the assembled officers explaining the final battle plan. Beside him stood his Quran companion, now named Terra after Jin's homeworld. The bond between them had grown stronger each day. The Vorac's expect us to meet them in open space with our main fleet, Jin explained. Instead, our fastest ships will engage briefly here, then retreat toward the asteroid belt. He pointed to a dense cluster of rocks on the display. Meanwhile, our main forces will be hidden in these positions. General Day continued the briefing. When the Vorac's pursue our decoy ships into the asteroid field, they will be surrounded and attacked from all sides. Their coordination depends on clear communication channels, which the mineral content of these particular asteroids will disrupt. An older Ryul commander raised his hand. And if they do not follow our decoys, if they recognize the trap? Jin smiled. Then we have 7 other plans ready to implement. The key is unpredictability. Each ship captain has sealed orders with different instructions. The Vorac's cannot predict what they cannot understand. After the briefing, Jin returned to his quarters to rest before the battle. Terra followed, moving with surprising grace for such a large creature. The Quran lay down near Jin's bed, its yellow eyes watching him with intelligence that still surprised Jin despite their growing bond. A soft knock at the door interrupted Jin's thoughts. He opened it to find Empress Jia standing there. "Your Majesty," Jin said, surprised. Terra immediately rose and bowed its head to the Empress. "May I enter?" She asked. Jin stepped aside to let her in. The Empress rarely visited anyone's private quarters. "I came to wish you good fortune in tomorrow's battle," she said, "and to thank you." "Thank me?" The Empress looked at Terra, then back at Jin. "When you first arrived, I saw humans as a useful tool against the Vorac's, a resource to be used. I did not expect to find wisdom in your ways." She stepped closer to the Quran and gently touched its head. "For 10,000 years, we Ryul have sought to dominate these magnificent creatures. We never considered partnership." She looked at Jin. "Just as we never truly considered partnership with other species." Jin understood what she was saying. "The bond I share with Terra is stronger than anything I could have forced through dominance." "Yes," the Empress said. "And tomorrow, we will see if the same principle applies to warfare. Your strategy does not rely on superior strength, but on cooperation and adaptation." As the Empress turned to leave, she paused at the door. "Whatever happens tomorrow, Commander Jin, you have changed the Ryul Empire forever. Perhaps for the better." The next morning, Jin stood on the bridge of the Ryul flagship alongside General Day. Terra remained at his side, now fitted with a special communication device that allowed Jin to share the Quran's enhanced senses. Through their bond, Jin could perceive things no human or Ryul instruments could detect. "Vorac's fleet entering the outer system," a Ryul officer reported. 227 vessels detected. General Day gave Jin a grim look. "More than we expected." "Numbers don't win battles," Jin replied. "Tactics do." The general nodded and gave the order. "Launch decoy fleet." The battle began as planned. The faster Ryul ships engaged the front of the Vorac's fleet, then appeared to retreat in disarray. The Vorac's, sensing weakness, pursued eagerly, spreading their formation to catch the fleeing ships. "They're taking the bait," Jin said, watching the tactical display. Through his bond with Terra, he could sense a strange energy pattern from the Vorac's ships. Terra feels something unusual. The Vorac's are excited. They think they've won already. As the Vorac's ships entered the asteroid field, Jin gave the signal. "Now!" Hidden Ryul and human ships powered up and attacked from all sides. The Vorac's, their formations already stretched thin, found their communication systems disrupted by the mineral-rich asteroids. For the first time, the hive mind that made them so dangerous became a weakness. Without clear coordination, individual Vorax ships made different decisions, creating chaos in their fleet. "It's working," General Day said, watching as Vorax ships collided with each other trying to regroup. But then alarms blared across the bridge. "New contacts," a Ryul officer called out. 50 more Vorax ships entering the system." General Day cursed. "Reinforcements. They must have called for help when they detected our first attack." Jin felt a moment of doubt. Had his plan failed? Then he felt Terra press against his leg, and through their bond came not fear but determination. "Implement Contingency Plan 3, Jin ordered. This was one of the 7 backup plans they had prepared. All ships in Sectors 4 and 7, break off and engage the new arrivals. Everyone else continue the current attack. The battle raged for hours. Jin and General Day coordinated their forces, constantly changing tactics to prevent the Vorax from adapting. When one approach stopped working, they switched to another. When the Vorax countered one move, the real and human ships responded with something completely different. Finally, the largest Vorax ship, the command vessel, attempted to retreat from the asteroid field. Jin sensed through Terra that this was the critical moment. "All ships focus fire on the command vessel," he ordered. "That's their central node." The combined firepower of 20 Ryul warships converged on the Vorax command ship. Its shields failed under the assault, and moments later, the massive vessel exploded in a blinding flash. Throughout the battlefield, the remaining Vorax ships suddenly became erratic. Some continued fighting, some drifted aimlessly, and others began to retreat in different directions. "The hive mind is disrupted," General Day said. "Without the command ship, they cannot coordinate." Over the next hour, the remaining Vorax ships were either destroyed or driven from the system. What had seemed like an unstoppable invasion force had been defeated by the unexpected combination of Ryul power and human ingenuity. 3 days later, a grand ceremony was held in the royal palace. The great hall was filled with Ryul and humans standing side by side. At the front, Empress Jia sat on her throne with General Day at her right hand. Commander Jin approached with Terra walking proudly beside him. "Commander Jin of Earth," the Empress announced, her voice carrying throughout the hall. "Today you become the first non-Ryul to receive the title of Imperial Guardian. Your strategies have saved our homeworld, and your bond with Terra has shown us a new path forward." Jin knelt before the Empress. She placed a ceremonial medallion around his neck, the symbol of a guardian of the Empire. "The Vorax will return," the Empress continued, addressing everyone present. "But when they do, they will find not just the Ryul Empire waiting for them, but a new alliance. One based not on dominance, but on the incredible strength that comes from true partnership." As Jin rose and turned to face the assembled crowd, he saw Ryul and human faces looking back at him with respect and hope. Terra pressed against his side, their bond humming with shared emotion. The human who had carried an alien wolf predator had done something truly incredible. He had helped 2 species find a better way forward together.